Hello there, my RPG lovers, and welcome to another video. Not so long ago, I made a video about an upcoming Gothic-like RPG called Of Ash and Steel. I got in contact with one of the developers and I got to ask 10 different questions about the game. Back then, we only had some B-roll footage of the gameplay, but this time around there is a playable build on Steam. A playtest version to be exact, and I got the chance to play it.
Me?
So I'm going to talk about my experience with this playtest version of the game and try to give some honest feedback to the developer.
Just a few broken teeth and you can afford to drink toasts to the one all week.
I'm pretty sure that everyone can do the same as long as you request the access on Steam. Of Ash and Steel is a third-person action RPG with an open-world design. It's heavily inspired by Gothic games and by the Witcher series, or so they claim. I definitely saw a lot of similarities with the Gothic games while playing the playtest version of the game. Now, this is just a playtest version, so it's probably not even close to the release version of the game. So everything might change and improve based on the feedback they get from this playtest version.
So, what's that you say?
I would say they got a lot of things right and some things very wrong, but let's not get ahead of ourselves and start from the beginning. We only have a little bit of context about the main story and setting. The playtest version begins when the Knights of the Order arrive in the capital city. Well, near the capital city actually, and this place is like a little tutorial. You play as a cartographer called Tristan, who is traveling with the Knights. So yeah, it's a pre-made character with some background, but you will be able to shape his personality with different dialogue choices. All named NPCs have a ton of things to say, maybe even a little bit too much if you ask me. Don't get me wrong, I certainly like a lot of optional dialogue choices in RPGs, where you can learn more about the lore and the story in general. But this playtest version is a little bit aggressive with all the dialogue, and a lot of it just ends up being pointless yapping.
No one likes a smart ass, boy.
You can skip through most of it though, but a lot of dialogue is mandatory if you want to learn what's actually happening. That's the thing though, the playtest version lacks a true overarching plot, which is maybe too much to ask for. After all, it's just a playtest version, but you would expect them to include some interesting hook for the main story at least. There's no such thing though, despite the abundance of dialogue that you're going to experience. To be fair, the main story in Gothic games was never the focal point. It was about the journey and the unforgiving world full of assholes who are trying to survive. And speaking of survival, Of Ash and Steel has legit survival mechanics, which are not that aggressive in this playtest, but more about the gameplay in a minute. Of Ash and Steel seems like it's going to do its own thing when it comes to the story, as it should, so I wish we got at least a little bit more context about what's going on. Essentially, you're just running from one NPC to another and solving different quests, which are usually related to those NPCs in particular. Basically, you're just solving other people's problems, like in 90% of other RPGs. That's not bad by default, and I really like some of these quests. At the end of this little tutorial, your group gets attacked by some unknown enemy. You're the only one who survives, somehow, even though you don't even know how to hold a weapon at this point. To give the game some credit, the quests you do for these NPCs can be pretty interesting. I definitely think they have the right idea for how they create these quests. Even though the dialogue can be annoying, the writing is not bad at all. There are some weird interactions here and there that didn't make a lot of sense to me, but it seems like the game is going to be well written for the most part. The quality of voice acting is okay for the most part, but you can definitely find some silly sounding NPCs.
The more important question here is who the depths are you?
My name's Tristan.
Hold it! Whatever comes after that I'm isn't anything I asked.
Hey, hold on.
Huh?
You only get one bowl.
But I want more than everybody else.
I can tell.
We have to remember that this is an indie RPG, so I don't think we can expect some amazing voice acting in general, but this is perfectly fine. I like how most of the dialogue with NPCs will introduce a stat check, and if you meet the requirements you'll get some extra XP. These options don't seem to affect the trajectory of the quest though, so most of them play out exactly the same, at least in the playtest version. For example, this guy wanted me to loot some things in the abandoned village, and he has a key for one of the houses. On my first playthrough, I played along and he managed to screw me over the first chance he got, because of course he did. That's totally in the spirit of Gothic games.
Sorry, Triss. You were a great brother, but I'm an orphan. Guess family just isn't my thing.
Shit.
Anyways, thanks for the help.
Then you just have to find another way to get out of this house, which was pretty easy to do actually, and try to find this guy once again. On my second playthrough, I just refused to do his request and I went there myself. I could not enter the house through the front door, but I did some climbing and managed to get in. Nothing happened though. Tristan didn't have the same voice lines like before, and you could only loot a couple of things here.
These look like human bones. I need to get out of here quickly.
I forgot to check if perhaps he has the key in his inventory that you could get by simply beating him up, so I didn't really test out all of the possibilities. On the other side, some quests can be done in different ways, with different outcomes. Even one of the tutorial quests will have an important decision to make, which is pretty cool, although it doesn't seem like it makes a huge difference at the end. There was a quest where I needed to give some food to the woodcutters, and the order in which you give the food actually matters.
That big lummox took everything I made.
You mean Hugo? Hey, why the depths did you serve him first? He's not from around here.
So yeah, I think they have the right idea for the quest, they just need to tone down some of the dialogue, because not all of it is interesting. After the tutorial, the game opens up and you have this little piece of island to explore, which took me around 7 hours in total. 7 hours for a couple of playthroughs actually, because I didn't wanna miss anything. Although I'm pretty sure I still didn't experience everything this playtest version has to offer. On my first playthrough, I kinda locked myself from continuing by going to the place where the game ends, so I was forced to start the game from the beginning. I had some other save files, but they were pretty early in the game anyway. As for the visuals, I have some mixed feelings. While you explore the map, you're definitely going to feel that Gothic inspiration all around you. The environments are fun to look at and explore, even though there is definitely some generic Unreal Engine assets which prevents the game from looking unique. Still though, I personally wouldn't mind if the environments don't change that much in the full game. The character models on the other hand are pretty damn ugly, and once again they have that Unreal Engine generic look. Even so, I think they did a good job with including variety of different faces for named NPCs. This might turn some people away, but I personally don't care that much to be honest, as long as the gameplay is good. So, is the gameplay any good? Well, it's a mixed bag. I started the game on the hardest difficulty, which is seemingly for experienced RPG players. I can tell you straight away that at least one of these sentences is wrong. It says that you can only save at certain points, but that's not true because I could save the game whenever I wanted. This is probably intended for the full game, and maybe the playtest version is just a little bit different or a little bit buggy. This game definitely has all the bells and whistles of a true RPG. A bunch of dialogue choices with stat checks, many different RPG systems and mechanics in terms of gathering, crafting, fishing, leatherworking, cooking, and so on. Even the playtest version allows you to interact with a bunch of these RPG systems, and I would take that as a good sign. Judging by that, we can expect some deep RPG systems and mechanics when the full game releases. On the other side, the combat is very bad in this playtest version, and it's almost completely broken, which is a bad sign. Most animations are horrible, the sense of impact is non-existing, and you don't feel like you're in the full control over your character. Look, Tristan is just a wimp in the beginning, it's the same philosophy like in Gothic games. You can't even hold a weapon, let alone fight in the beginning, until you learn some skills and get better items. However, that's not an excuse for having such poor combat mechanics. It's very slow, enemies have terrible animations and weird attack patterns, your basic attacks are almost not worth using at all and they feel awful, the stamina system is too punishing and so on. I really wish they focus on this part of the game in the future updates and improve it as much as possible. In its current state, the combat feels like it's in pre-alpha or even worse than that. I'm sure the combat gets at least a little bit better with new skills and levels, but that won't fix everything. Like I said before, it's also kinda broken. At first I wasn't able to kill almost anyone, because the basic attacks are almost not worth doing. You can only do one attack at a time, which is not that useful. I mean, I get the idea and the philosophy behind the combat, because your character is supposed to be a wimp in the beginning, but the execution is just terrible. Enemies will just eat up your attacks and retaliate with their own attacks, and this can easily get you killed. Now, I know this is the hardest difficulty and it's supposed to be hard, but when the mechanics are so bad, harder difficulties will only magnify all the problems with the gameplay. Speaking of difficulties, I believe that if you're trying to make a Gothic-like RPG, you should only have one universal difficulty. It's way easier to balance and everyone gets to have the same experience, but I know some people will disagree with me on this. Anyway, I learned the strong attack later on, and that's all I used in most fights. Enemies will just keep getting stun locked after this attack, and by the time they come back, you'll have enough stamina to do it again. Your basic attack is not even worth using, since you'll get hit easily and just waste your stamina. On the other side, the game world seems to have enemies with fixed levels and no level scaling, which is great if you ask me. This can definitely boost the sense of progression in an RPG, but the combat needs to improve quite a bit in order for people to care about this. I always liked the idea of fixed levels in RPGs, and it's probably the best way to make the world feel dangerous. But it requires a lot of work in order to balance it out properly, because it will limit the player's movement in the open worlds. Some enemies in this game are way too slow, or they have weird animations, like the wolves. They will rarely get close to you, so it's hard to attack them with melee weapons, they just run around the map like a headless chicken. It seems like most of these enemies have some special attacks, which is cool, but the basic attacks require a lot more work. The AI is pretty bad as well, so it makes things even worse. I'm just being brutally honest, because I want this game to be good when it comes out. They seem to have the right idea for all the RPG systems and the world, so it would be a shame if the combat system doesn't improve. There are a lot of different skills that you can learn, and the progression system seems great in general. There is a classical leveling up system where you get to improve your various stat points. The UI is clean and it's easy to navigate, with mouse and keyboard at least. Moving around in the game and interacting with the world is decent. However, I instantly hated the fact that you constantly have to hold the button to run. Your default moving speed is extremely slow, which means that you absolutely have to hold the button to run. Running doesn't affect your stamina, only when you start sprinting your stamina starts depleting. There are some small and cool details like being able to trip over rocks and mud, although I think the animation for getting up is very slow. You have to hold shift or the square button on the controller all the time in order to move like this, which is just extremely annoying, and I hope they change this as soon as possible. It doesn't feel good at all, and it almost ruined my whole experience with the gameplay, to be honest. Putting that aside, it's clear to me that the playtest version doesn't have the full controller support, but I wanted to test it out anyway. It works a lot better with mouse and keyboard, and some of the UI features are not working at all with the controller. That will probably change in the future though. Putting the annoying default moving speed aside, moving around feels okay. You can jump and grab ledges, which allows you to climb on many surfaces. It makes the exploration way better, and the map is designed around this mechanic in a way. You'll be able to find a lot of items to loot like this if you're curious to explore everything.
Now you're really starting to sound like the brother I've searched for all my life.
The exploration is hands down the best part about this playtest version. This small chunk of the map has quite a bit of verticality and interesting places to discover. There is no in-game map, at least not for now, and the game won't tell you where to go, you have to discover everything by yourself. You can tell that the map is entirely built on that premise, which is actually very important. It's not that hard to go back to the place that you previously discovered or find a brand new location. I think this is the best open world design you can have in your game, but then again, it's just a small chunk of the map. It's probably much bigger than what you would expect from a playtest version, but small nonetheless. I found a lot of areas with higher level enemies that I never got to kill, not yet at least. Unfortunately, the current state of the combat system forced me to avoid encounters as much as possible because it's more frustrating than fun. The survival elements of the game are there, but I didn't find them annoying like I usually do. You'll have to eat food and drink potions anyway, sleep every now and then and heal yourself. You can also set up a camp where you can sleep and cook food.
That's for sure. Something was banging around in the cellar all night. Couldn't bring myself to risk checking what it was.
For the end, we really have to mention the amazing soundtrack, which gave me some major Gothic 2 vibes. Maybe it even sounds a bit too much like the Gothic 2 soundtrack, but that's a huge plus in my book anyway. It creates a great atmosphere while exploring the map. To sum it up, I truly believe Wolf Ashen Steel could be an amazing RPG if they focus on improving the game in general, especially the combat system. I think it's more about how it feels than how it looks. The controls in combat and the responsiveness in general needs to improve a lot. So even if the animations remain the same, it wouldn't bother me that much in general if the feel of the combat improves. The game is filled with meaningful RPG systems and mechanics which could enrich the overall gameplay experience. But the current state of the gameplay is very rough in order to be fun. Anyway, tell me, did you play the playtest version of Ashen Steel? I'm pretty sure that anyone can request the access on Steam, so if you're curious about the game, you can probably get to test it out and leave your feedback to the developer. I'll keep my eye on future major updates and make new videos about this game, so stick around if you want to see that. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content like this. And if you want to go a step further, consider supporting your boy by becoming a YouTube channel member or a Patreon. Huge thanks to all my current supporters, and I'll see ya in the next one.